1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All life.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome. Welcome to episode 70 of Star Wars Reactions. That's right, the big 70. 7 more episodes will be 77, just like the year Star Wars was created. But I'm getting off course, so let's get it back on course. Episode 70, Star Wars Reactions. Welcome. I am Aaron Harris. I'm one half of your hosting team, and joining me as always, he is the Fennec Shan to my Boba Fett, the David Motters. David, brother, how you doing?
I am doing awesome, and just ready to react, as always. Looking forward to covering this episode with you, and there's a lot to cover, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Just really excited to do that. Yeah, just excited to do it, buddy.
Yeah, same here. I'm really excited for it. We got a lot of great things to talk about, and I've been looking forward to it, and we're going to get her done. To quote Larry the Cable Guy, we're going to get her done. So, all right. So first, we're going to go ahead and jump into some news that has come out in the last, we're recording this a day later than normal on Friday the 14th. But it has been announced that the maker himself, the legendary George Lucas, is being honored along with Kathleen Kennedy at the 2022 Producers Guild Awards. They will both be receiving the Milestone honor. They'll be receiving this in recognition of their individual and collaborative contributions to film and the industry. The ceremony will be on March 19th. This is huge for them. It's a great honor for them because they definitely, I know definitely nobody will question George has definitely made a huge impact on the film industry itself. And Kathleen Kennedy has been there too, has been making massive inroads and massive impact as well. So it's well deserved for them. What are your thoughts on this award, David?
I guess the first thing I think about is there I can't believe there's any awards George Lucas hasn't won.
I know. Tell me about it.
In the film industry. I think back to all the innovations that he is a part of. And, when you really think about it, he's the one who flipped the bill. And, it wasn't big studios. It was him. And it's amazing. And like you said, I think with Kathleen Kennedy in this brave new world that we have of, not just COVID, but this transition to streaming, and how do you do that, and how much emphasis on movies versus, having just direct to TV. It seems like there's probably landmines everywhere, but this is really good. Congrats to both of them. Like I said, I can't believe there's anything that George hasn't won.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And if he hasn't won it, why hasn't he? He has done so much and made such an impact on film and on the industry altogether. And I know Kathleen Kennedy brings her whole world into it. And there's either way, I don't care where you stand on the prequels. Or not prequels, the sequels, excuse me. But you can't deny the fact that Kathleen Kennedy has made an impact in movies. And whether you like the sequels or not, she has made an impact. I mean, she has produced been either an assistant producer, or executive producer on some of the biggest movies to come out of Hollywood. E.T., Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, The Goonies, Back to the Future, American Tail, Empire of the Sun, Batteries Not Included, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, just to name a few of these as we go. I mean, there's just a ton. Hook, one of my favorite movies ever, Hook. She was a producer on Hook. And not just in movies, but in TV as well. She was an executive producer on the animated show Tiny Toon Adventures with Steven Spielberg. She was a producer on Jurassic Park. I mean, come on. The Oscar award-winning Schindler's List. I mean, it goes on and on. Some of the best-known movies of the last 20-some years. More than that, 20, 30 years she has been a part of. So you can't deny her contribution to the industry as well. And this is definitely a well-deserved honor for both of them. And congratulations to the maker and the new maker as they receive this award.
Yeah.
So that was the good news. And unfortunately, we do have some sad news as well. If you are a fan of the Legends books, you may recognize this name, but David Farland, also known as David Wolverton, he unfortunately has passed away. He actually passed away on January 13th of 2022. He's an author, Star Wars author. He was best known for the Legends book, The Courtship of Princess Leia, which is actually one of the very few books I have read out of the Legends line. So I actually did recognize that right away and was saddened by his loss. He also wrote a lot of short stories as well, including ones from Tales of Mos Eisley Cantina, Payback, The Tale of Dengar, and many others. So our thoughts and prayers go out to his family as they deal with the loss of their husband, father, and relative. You know, it's we are praying and wishing them the best.
Yeah, well said, buddy. I ditto everything you said.
So with that, we will close out the news segment, and we will move into something a little more fun, which will be, of course, the discussion of Chapter 3 of the Book of Boba Fett. This episode was called The Streets of Mos Espa. Kind of gives you a little reading of that 70s show, The Streets of San Francisco, but but not as cool. Streets of Mos Espa, which was released January 12th of 2022, written by the fabulous Jon Favreau and directed by the man himself, the Robert Rodriguez. Fabulous episode. So, well, depending on your opinion. This episode, of course, definitely interesting. We end up with a lot of things happening in this episode. We have Boba Fett being approached by the Hutts and given a Rancor. And while he's being given the Rancor, he is told that the mayor has actually already promised Mos Espa to a different guild. So with the new biker gang he has rescued, he is employed. Boa goes to find the mayor, ends up finding the major domo, and a Back to the Future-esque chase begins, which ends up crashing into instead of a truck full of dung, it ends up crashing into a truck full of Mailorons. Yes, I said Mailorons. And we find out that he's promised them to the Pikes, and he's off with the Pikes, and things just progressively get worse from there for them. And now we are going to be seeing what happens going forward as the Pikes arrive, and we get to see this gang war build up there. So it was an interesting episode. So, David, what were your initial thoughts when you first watched The Streets of Mos Espa?
Yeah, just my initial thoughts is this: here's another action-packed episode to follow up probably one of the best Star Wars live-action episodes ever. Considering the Mandalorian for 2 seasons, and these 3 episodes. That last episode, Chapter 2, was just incredible. So that's a tough act to follow, as you and I both know. But it was kind of neat. They did a little bit of a flip from Chapter 2, and that more time was spent in the current time as compared to time in flashback. And that was kind of cool, because the previous one, more time was spent in the flashback than in current time. I like how you did the synopsis, because then I could kind of jump in and point out a few things that you didn't have in there, which is good. And I put in here that I really enjoyed the fight scene with Chrysanthemum and Boba and the mods, the modified street gang there. I thought that was pretty cool. Chrysanthemum tackling the Gamorrean guards was, I just thought, totally cool. And they go right down the stairs, ends up back in the main area where Jabba had his dais and where Boba has his main chair. Like you were mentioning, there's a lot going on in this. I watched it a second time tonight, as I just mentioned to you before we started recording, and there are a lot of different angles going on here. But ultimately, this setup for Boba and Fennec having to battle the Pikes really has me pumped up. And so when it ended, I was like, wait, what? I'm ready to see that. And so I'm also curious to see where the whole Rancor situation goes. I'm still a little confused on the Rancor Keeper, his motivations, the Hutt's involvement. It's all a little shady. So, but overall, a really good episode, enjoyable, and of course, ready for.
Very good, very good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a good episode. I'm not going to say it wasn't a good episode, but it just didn't hit me as good as as Chapter 2 did. It was still good. I mean, it seemed a little slower, a little off base for me. We did get meet some good characters. Like some of the kids from the biker gang were pretty cool. The new Rancor Keeper, or the new Rancor we got, was cool to see that. And then of course the Rancor Keeper being portrayed by the incredible Danny Trejo, which shouldn't have surprised me that he was in this, considering it's a Robert Rodriguez directed episode, because he's in everything that Robert Rodriguez does, so it shouldn't have surprised me at all. But it was good. The one thing that I will say in my initial reactions, and we'll probably talk about this a little later too in the episode, is that although I liked some of the characters that we got from this modded biker gang, but they felt out of place to me. They just didn't feel like they fit into Tatooine. I mean, the characters and themselves did, but they were riding around on what appeared to be, Vespas, little Vespa scooters that were colored like the different Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It just didn't work for me. If they'd have been on regular speeders, then yeah, this probably would have rocked. But being on these little wannabe Vespas just kind of didn't do it for me. It felt out of place to have bright green and bright red and bright yellow bikes flying through the dull browns of Mos Espa on Tatooine. It just they stuck out like a sore thumb, and I couldn't. It felt wrong. It didn't feel good, like it fit to me. But I will say the whole chasing. There was that nice nod, like I mentioned earlier, to Back to the Future, which I got a nice little kick out of. But overall, compared to Chapter 2, this episode felt a little anticlimactic for me. It didn't have the umph that last episode had. So I got to say, I think this is the most we've been opposite, David, in our opening statements.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. Yeah, no, like I said to you, to follow, it's like when someone gives a great speech and you have to go after him. Oh my gosh, really? I have to go after him or her? You don't even want to do it. So yeah, following up Chapter 2, I'm not sure how you could top that one, quite honestly.
Yeah, it definitely was a rough feat. You're always going to have that happen in any series, not just Star Wars, but any show where you have a massive impact episode like Chapter 2 was, which was full of action and storytelling and growth and background and surprises that you kind of follow up with. It's just kind of little and we definitely got that, in at least for me, in this episode. So but like I said, it was still a good episode. But what I liked about this is that even though it was not my favorite episode and it really didn't grab me like the others, it still left me wanting to watch the next episode, which is a good thing. I know most shows where something leaves me hanging and it leaves me not wanting, it just didn't sit with me. It doesn't leave me wanting for more, but this still managed to make me want to know what happens next, which is I gotta say, is a credit to the writers. So,
right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and go through some of our talking points here. I know, one of the biggest things that we see in this episode is Boba and Fennec dealing with threats from multiple angles, multiple sides coming at them, whether it's Black Chrysanthemum coming at them and attacking them in Jabba's palace, whether it's the threat from the mayor, the threat from the Pikes. We got the biker gang, we got the citizens that are supposed to be under his protection complaining. So he's getting it from all sides right now, which is definitely proving a unique situation where Fennec's just like, we just need to shoot them all. And so one of those kill them all, let God sort it out, where Boba is more like, let's talk it out. Peace, love, give me a hug. And it's very interesting to see that difference, because we always had these visions of Boba Fett growing up through Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and then when we saw him in the Clone Wars as trying to avenge his father, we get this vision of who Boba is, and that's not it. To be perfectly honest, you expect to see not somebody wanting to sit down and talk it out. We expect a shoot first, apologize later type personality. Vader specifically had to tell him no disintegrations while hunting Solo. So it's definitely a change, and but what's nice, what I like about what they've done is this change is made believable, and it is it's believable because of the backstory they're giving with what happened with the Tuscans, and his relationship there, and how they rescued him and made him one of their own. So you see that change happening over time through these flashbacks. So when you get to this, it is more believable that he would want to, all right, let's talk it out.
Right. Well, can I piggyback on you, brother?
Go right ahead.
Yeah. See, you set it up perfectly. As I was thinking about this, that, particularly in this episode, when they show what happens to his Tuscan tribe, it's a gut punch when, he puts that gaffy stick on from the leader of that tribe. And then he has the smaller stick, which is from that kid. And he holds it and then throws it onto the fire that he has. And I started thinking, because, one of the questions that I've had, and a lot of Star Wars fans have had, is like, why is Boba like this? Why is he so patient with, the Hutts and with Black Chrysanthemum? Why doesn't he just kill them, instead of handing them back to the Hutts? His patience with the biker gang, his patience with the mayor, his patience with the major domo, and I think it's from seeing, his Tuscan tribe killed and how valuable life is. And when you just go in guns a-blazing and you take life, there's a real consequence, a horrific consequence to it. So just like you said, buddy, it starts to make more sense to me why you're seeing him like this. It is this character arc. It is, I'm not going to just shoot everybody immediately, because I had to, see my entire Tuscan tribe that took me in. I had to see them. They were killed. And so it's making more sense. And so I would say this, again, after watching this episode a second time, these numerous threats from numerous sides, it's really intricate, buddy. Here's some of the questions I have. Was it the Kintan Striders, or Boba calls them Nikto Sand Riders? Did they actually kill the Tuscans? Because when you see them in the first episode, kind of beating up that moisture farmer, and then taking off, like 3 or 4 of them, right? And Boba goes in and beats them all up and then takes their speeder bikes. I just can't visualize that small group going and killing that whole tribe of Tuscans. In fact, when Boba in the flashback is talking to the Pike boss, he says, yeah, well, I'll go take care of them. I'll deal with them. We outnumber those guys, right? The Nikto Sand Riders. So I definitely, this is me, I think it's the Pikes who are behind it. Either, they're pulling the strings on those Nikto Sand Riders, that biker gang, or, that Pike boss sent a bunch of Pikes out there to kill them, and basically lied and said, hey, this Nikto Sand Riders are blackmailing us for the same area. Probably not. They run those guys too. So everything is kind of mysterious. Everybody's, I think, lying. Even Boba says to Fennec, I have no reason to believe the Hutts. He says they would love to see their enemies go to war. So a lot of stuff going on here. And like you said, it leaves me wanting more. I'm curious to see where this all goes. Who is ultimately maybe the big bad in this whole thing? But yeah, a lot of threats from a lot of sides, and it's not fully clear who's pulling all these strings.
That is very true. Well said. It's going to be interesting to see who is really doing this, because it is very much we've had 3 episodes in, and it's all a mind game.
Right.
The flashbacks aren't. The flashbacks are really cool. They're right up on the thing. But the modern day story that we're getting, that's the non-flashback, is really just a giant mind game of, of who do you trust? Who do you trust? It's like, I go back, I say, who do you trust? And I immediately go to the 1989 Batman where the Joker's on TV. He's like telling people, who do you trust? Me? I'm giving away free money. Or the Batman. It's just, who do you trust? Do you trust the elected mayor that's, in bed with the Pikes? Do you trust the Hutts who, want your territory? do you really trust the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger biker gang? I mean, it's really all up in the air. And, it goes right along with my dad joke from 2 shows ago. He's solo.
Yeah.
He's solo. But I will say this: I do have a hard time calling that biker gang that destroyed the Tuscans, Niktos Sand Riders, because wasn't the Niktos? Wasn't that? I just blanked on his name from Resistance, the green guy.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, why do you do this to me? He is one, right? Yeah, he is a Nikto.
Yeah.
They were about 2 different kinds of Nikto. He was one type in Resistance. What is his? Gosh, we haven't covered that show in such a long time.
He's voiced by Josh Brennan.
Right.
Golly, I could see his face, and I even did when we were doing Resistance reactions. I even had the saying, his saying of the show. Golly, this is killing me.
You want me to look it up? I'll look.
I'm trying to do that now. Problem is,
the other, like, I'm thinking of Toradoza. I know we covered that show. Niku. Nice. Thank you for finding me.
Niku. I'm sorry, Niku. You were my buddy. You were my pal.
I would have to look back to one of my creature corners where they do talk about, I believe, 2 different type of Niktos, right? Yeah. So, but you have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, being called Niktos and thinking of, Niso Niku, the Nikto, it just didn't. It doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right.
Wasn't it episode? Yeah, you the first episode of The Mandalorian, as he and IG-11 IG-88, IG-11. They're trying to get into that stronghold, and all of those guys are Niktos.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? That they, Mando and IG-11 went through them like a hot knife through butter. But yeah, a lot of Niktos in these shows. But let me give you one more angle on these threats from numerous sides. It's still unclear to me. The parkour Nightwind assassins, still don't know who sent them. I mean, the mayor said, take a look at the hut. But the Nightwind assassin said the mayor sent him.
Yep.
Who's really working for the Pikes. So again, that's not fully clear to me either. So
then you got to ask the question, are the Pikes back on their own, or are the Pikes still connected to Crimson Dawn?
Exactly. That's another angle. They might be the big bad behind all this, and they just haven't been mentioned yet.
Exactly. We really got to just kind of wait and see what's going on. I mean, this is episode 3. The next episode coming out is episode 4. That is the midpoint of the series. 7 episodes in the series. And so that is going to be the midpoint. So I think the next episode is going to be huge. I think there's going to be something huge that happens in that episode, which is going to direct us into the sprint for the final 3 episodes. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. So, well, I know you said we talked about the biker gang a little bit, the mods. Which include, of course, 2 of the characters, Drash and Scad. And of course, they're out there on the streets of Mos Espa stealing water, which is how Boba got involved with them, which was interesting. Like I said, they didn't really do much for me, but I know that you enjoyed them, David. And they did give me one of my favorite scenes in there, which is that nod to Back to the Future, where at the end of the chase, where they're chasing the mayor's major domo through the streets of Mos Espa, he ends up crashing into the truck, which dumps all the Mailorons on him, which was 2 great nods. One, you got the nod to Back to the Future, where the car crashes and of course manure gets dumped on Biff. But in this one, it's the major domo and it's Mailorons. But then you got the nod, of course, of the fruits being Mailorons from Rebels, Hera's favorite. So a couple great nods in that. So what did you think of that whole chase scene through Mos Espa?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought the Mailorons. I was going to bring them up as just a little nod because you and I covered Rebels and enjoyed that, and got to meet a lot of the voice actors over the years for that show. So it holds a special place in my heart. So whenever I see Mailorons, it's pretty fun. That's cool. I think I'd mentioned to you last night when we were talking that I found it interesting that they're called mods. And with my last name being Modders for years and years and years, my friends in high school and college would say, "Hey, what's up, mods?" And so I kind of had a special place in my heart already for these guys when they're called that. But just like you said, I have a similar vibe when it comes to the colors clashing with what we typically think about on Tatooine. But, I thought about it a little bit more, and watching it a second time, I kind of thought, I wasn't really that impressed, but I kind of thought about it again, and the chase is really in close quarters. And so watching it again and watching the major domo trying to drive around and hit everything in sight, and they're trying to slow him down, I thought it was okay. It's not great. I do keep in mind the budget that they have for these. I think I heard somewhere that people thought that it might be a little bit less per episode than The Mandalorian was. So I know they're working within, the confines of TV and streaming and, how much special effects cost and stuff like that. But, I think it kind of continued to establish that I think this, Aaron, is that they do have these modifications, that they are part of his team, right? So again, Boba saves the Gamorreans. They pledge to him. When he goes and talks to them, he doesn't take them out. He hires them, says, "Come work for me." I do think, Aaron, him letting Black Chrysanthemum go is going to come back around. I'm curious to see if he gets in contact with the other Tusken tribes, so that when you get all these together, including this mod gang, you got all these people, and if he's riding a Rancor, now we're talking a major battle with the Pikes that could wrap up this series, and that could be epic, dude. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, that could be huge.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that could be awesome. But we got so much to cover, and you brought up the Rancor. I want to talk about the Rancor, but before we do, we have to take a quick break. We will be right back to talk more of the Streets of Mos Espa. We're back. Aaron and David here. We are talking Chapter 3, The Streets of Mos Espa. And let's talk about this Rancor, David. You brought it up in your last comments before the break about the Rancor, which was quite a unique twist to the episode. The Rancor is actually an apology gift from the Hutt twins to Boba Fett for trying to have him killed, essentially. I mean, which, kind of caught me off guard. You never would have heard Jabba going, yeah, nope, I tried to kill you. My bad. He just would have had somebody else kill you and then kill the person that failed to kill you.
Right.
And so, but that's how he gets the Rancor. The twins give it to him as a gift with, apparently he was given the Rancor and the Rancor Keeper, which in this case was played by Danny Trejo. And we get to see the Rancor go into the pit, where like we saw in Return of the Jedi. And we have an interesting interaction between Fett and the Keeper, talking about the Rancor, where Danny Trejo's basically say, yeah, they have a whole wide range of emotions and they feel things, a lot of things. And because Boba made the comment that the Rancor seemed depressed. So, and he had and they asked him why he had blinders on. He had a mask and over his eyes so he couldn't see. And it made the statement that the first person that the Rancor sees, that first impression, that's who he's going to bond with and everything. So Boba wanted it to be him, so they pull the mask off. So Boba's the first person that he sees. But let's be perfectly honest here. Boba couldn't have been the first person that this Rancor saw, because somebody had to put the mask on the Rancor to cover his eyes.
Right.
And it was probably Danny Trejo.
Right.
So I see a little hole in the story there. But the idea that Fett mentioned of wanting to ride the Rancor, was quite intriguing to me. That's the one part that when he said that, I kind of leaned back and was like, that is interesting. I don't ever remember, and I've been racking my brain whether I saw it in Clone Wars, and I don't think I remember ever seeing him in Clone Wars, where somebody would ride a Rancor into battle, or ride a Rancor like a horse. It just doesn't. It never really. We've never seen anything like that. So I'm interested to see how that works out. And Boba's like, yeah, it'll be easy. I've ridden things a lot bigger than he has, which is awesome because, that actually ties right into his Boba Fett's very first appearance when he's riding that giant beast in the holiday special.
Right.
Which was a cool nod.
Yeah, the Mythosaur. Yeah.
The Mythosaur, yep. So it's definitely something to see. What are your thoughts on this new Rancor, David?
Yeah, this is very interesting because, again, the way that Jon Favreau is writing this, the way that Robert Rodriguez is directing it, again, everything is clear as mud. Meaning, like, completely agree with you that I don't think the Rancor first sees Boba Fett out of anybody. Unless the Danny Trejo as the Rancor Keeper has kept something on its eyes its entire life, but I'm telling you, I love the nod to the holiday special. I love that. At the same time, when you mentioned, have we seen this before? Well, recently in the Marvel High Republic series written by Kevin Scott, he does show one of the main characters, Avar Kriss, riding a Rancor into battle in the comics. It's a really cool, epic scene, and so we have seen it there. Now, oddly enough, I'm trying to remember because I was listening to another podcast. I was trying to remember. I believe in the courtship of Princess Leia, you'd mentioned this in the news, right? Written by Dave Wolverton. I believe a character rides a Rancor in that. I did not read it, but I believe that's the case. Now, again, looking at this whole scene, when Danny Trejo says, "Don't worry, he'll be back," I think that's nefarious. I think there's, he'll be back. You'll get to eat him. Interesting. Listen to Coffee with Kenobi. I always listen to, obviously, Dan and Tom Gross. Tom Gross was like, something seems fishy there. And interestingly, Dan says, no, I think it was all, all on the up and up. I don't know. I go back and forth. Watching it a second time, I'm like, just looking at his face and the way he acted it out, maybe it is on the up and up. I still lean towards the Hutts are like, well, Chrysanthemum didn't do it. Oh, hey, here's a gift. Our apologies. Not really. We just want to send a Trojan horse in, right? And let this thing run rampant and kill Boba Fett that way because Black Chrysanthemum couldn't do it. That's more my view.
That's an interesting view. I like that too because it's very it fits more with a Hutt personality per se to try to be sly and sneaky and downright double crossing per se. But with the if it was any other actor, I would, depending on the performance, I would be questioning whether or not they were double crossing or whether they were being legit. This is Danny Trejo though. He has made a career out of playing a double crosser. So I can definitely see him coming double cross, this being a double cross in some way. There's a different meaning to the "he'll be back" line that he gives. But we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting where they go, because now we have a Rancor in the picture, which is going to dramatically level the playing field when it comes to the ability to fight. Rancor is going to take up a good portion of any army you bring at them. So
that's what I'm really hoping, that it's the Hutts wanting to use a Rancor to kill Boba Fett and Fennec Shan, but ultimately Boba is able to tame the Rancor and goes into battle on a Rancor in the streets of Mos Espa. Now, again, that would be epic. I don't know if they have the money to pull that off, but it would be great.
It'll be great. It would be even better if while he's riding down the streets of Mos Espa on the back of a Rancor, he's yelling "Yippee-ki-yay."
Oh my gosh! Now you and I are writing this story, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Awesome. Now we do see the Pikes in this episode. And the Pikes are seeming to going to be playing a more nefarious role in the story here. It's almost seeming like they're going to be the antagonist, the way they've been set up in the last two episodes. And we see more Pikes arriving in this episode as well, off of the transport. What are your thoughts on the Pikes now? I mean, we have had great scenes with them. We even got the return of Phil Lamar voicing the Pike boss. So I mean, it's been great to see the Pikes. I mean, after seeing them in Clone Wars and of course seeing them in Solo, But seeing him in here has been fun to see, and it's going to be interesting, in my opinion, what they do. What are your thoughts on the Pikes and how they're being used in Book of Boba Fett?
I really enjoy it. In fact, going back to chapter 2 from last week, when he helps the Tuskens stop that train and that shipment of spice, and then not only doing that, but he sits down and he tells that particular Pike leader, voiced by Stephen Stanton, another person we love voice acting. I thought right then, I'm like, yeah, this is not going to work out well. They do not want to pay. Like, say, I don't think they're paying those Nikto sand riders to go through that area. I don't think that at all. And so when Boba Fett says, this is the Dune Sea, you're gonna you'll have safe passage through here, but you owe us a fee. I thought, no, that's not going to go over well. Particularly, like we said, from what we've seen in the Clone Wars, we don't see a ton of them in Solo. They're really cool looking in Solo. Wish I'd seen more of them in that movie, but I didn't think this was going to go well from the beginning. And so it provides this really good group of baddies. Again, I still wonder if we're going to see that Crimson Dawn is behind them. But if not, I still think they provide a really good group of bad guys to go against Fett. Now, this might also reveal, again, his ultimate motivation here, right? Which is get my armor back, be a crime boss. I don't really want to be a crime boss, but I need to get a bunch of people together, AKA Gamorrean guards, the mods, biker gang. I need them. Let me see if I can kind of pull a favor in with Black Chrysanthemum here in a little bit. Let me talk to Tusken tribes because I want to get revenge for the Pikes killing, not the Nikto Sand Riders, but I want revenge on the Pikes for killing my Tusken tribe. Right, brother?
Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially if we do get the connection that the Pikes are the ones who ordered it and did it. So
yeah.
Yes, I can definitely see it being going in that direction. And I think the loss of that Tusken tribe is going to be pivotal in the story to come as we find out what is going on. So now I do want to go ahead and mention too, because we got a fabulous connection to the Mandalorian in this episode. And I believe you know what I'm talking about, right, David?
Absolutely, my friend.
This was just a split-second scene. You blink and you miss it. Matter of fact, I blinked and missed it the first time I watched it. I caught it on my second time, and I only caught it because I was looking for it because somebody texted me and asked me about it. So I had to go back and double-check. But we have in Mos Espa walking down the street, being flanked by a bunch of her pit droids, Peli Motto from the Mandalorian showing up in chapter 3 of Book of Boba Fett. That, my friend, I thought was pretty awesome.
Oh, it was really cool. Now keep in mind that was Mos Eisley, not Mos Espa.
Oh, that's what I meant, Eisley.
Yeah. Because, Boba does ask the Jawas, where do the Pikes do their business here in Mos Eisley? And, of course, it shows a guy putting the Stormtrooper helmets on the Pikes. Of course, we see Mandalorian walking into Mos Eisley and Pikes with the Stormtrooper helmets on. And that's where you see Pelimoto. It takes a shot right through their camera angle, and you see her walking with those 3 pit droids. So just, really tying it in with the Mandalorian timeline. So, I thought that was really cool how they did that.
I thought it was great. I loved how they did it. It was actually a great nod and a great tie-in, which makes things so much more fun when you can have those tie-ins there. So very, very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this discussion. Any talking points that we missed that you want to go over before we move on?
Well, I'll just mention, again, this loss of the Tuscan tribe, but this is going to tie into the psychology corner. So I just want everybody to know that that's coming. We got one. We hadn't done one the last 2 times, but I told people we'd come back with the psychology corner, and the loss of that Tuscan tribe is it really is the impetus for tonight's psychology corner.
Excellent. I can't wait to hear all about it. For now, we'll go ahead and jump into final thoughts. Personally, I thought this was a good episode, like I stated at the beginning, but it was not a great episode. There was a lot of highlights for me throughout the episode. There was definitely some good things in the episode. The Wookiee attack, Danny Trejo, Pelimato showing up, the nods to Back to the Future. There's a lot of good things in the episode right there. But the modded biker gang with their Vespa wannabe scooters and their Mighty Morphin Power Ranger colors just brought me out of the element for the location of the story. And trouble kind of still bothers me to this day, even the few times I've watched it several times since the episode was released Wednesday, and it still troubles me. And so I definitely think like I said, it has still left me wanting more, which is a good thing. And if you can disappoint me and still leave me wanting more, that is awesome. And they definitely did that with this episode. I said disappointment, but it compared to last week, I was a little disappointed. But it was still a good episode, still a lot of interesting things in it. And it was
You there,
something
buddy?
I'm here. I just muted myself to cough.
Oh, there.
But yeah. So it's very interesting to see where it's going to proceed. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. So, David, what are your final thoughts on this episode?
Well, yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to do final thoughts in your grade, or do you want me to do my final thoughts and then we give a grade?
Yeah, go ahead and do your final thoughts, and then we'll do the grades.
Perfect, buddy. Yeah, for me, I continue to be really impressed with the story. We've talked about it throughout here. Very intricate, a lot of different threads. Jon Favreau's really putting a lot of little hints and things out there, and again, he'll bring it all together. We know he will, as a wonderful storyteller. So I'm really enjoying the story, the special effects. I was looking at that Rancor again. That speeder bike chase left something to be desired with special effects, but just looking at the Rancor again, I'm like, gosh, that looks really good. Just incredible. And then, of course, like you mentioned, a lot of nods to Star Wars history, the Star Wars Holiday Special, right? The Mythosaur and Boba Fett riding that. Obviously, having a Rancor, takes me back to 1983 and opening night when I saw Return of the Jedi, seeing a Rancor for the first time, in the summer of 1983. Just great to see these nods back. So again, like Aaron mentioned, we're kind of in essence halfway through the season, kind of this third into the fourth. But yeah, I'm glad that we have a lot of different directions to go in, and my interest is piqued.
Very cool. Very cool. And what was your, how would you grade the episode?
Yeah, I had thought about this. I kind of had it higher than I initially did. Watching it a second time, thinking about it, hearing what you have to say, I would say a B plus. It's not the A of last week. So a solid B plus.
Very cool. Very cool. You know, for me, like I said, it had its moments. There were some good things in the episode, but I struggled with it overall. You know, I've given it a B, um, and probably the thing that saved it and made it a B instead of a B minus was Danny Trejo. So, dude is just, I love Danny Trejo. He just is a guy that cracks me up every time he's on screen. He can be playing the most serious murdering assassin there can be, but he cracks me up just being on the screen. So love it. So B for me, B plus for you. Excellent. Very cool. Very cool. Now we do have some people that have written in, because we posted on our social media to share your thoughts with us about what you thought of the episode, and we did get some people that reached out and gave us their thoughts. So let's go ahead and get in here and see what y'all have said. Of course, here on Twitter, our friend Greg over at Rebel Base Card says this show feels like a comic book read, and that's not a bad thing. It's taking time and giving us some flash and deeper backstory, and I really like it. Of course, we are still transitioning from movies to TV series, and some, much like their Marvel cousins, will hit better than others, which is very true. Very true. Then on Twitter, JP Bunny said the episode to me was okay, not as groundbreakingly bad as some people make it out to be. To me, anyways. The Rancor, I can understand having feelings. It is a living creature. Completely agree. And last but not least, Cynical Buddha on Twitter says he's tired of seeing Boba Fett get his butt kicked. Which I can agree with that. Boba always ends up on his back in every fight we have seen so far that he has been in this series. He has end up on his back. When they were ambushed outside the mayor's office by the assassins, and the back to tank in this episode, he always ends up on his back getting beat up. Yeah, I can see that. I would be tired. It is when you have an image of the baddest bounty hunter in the galaxy, you don't see him, doing that. So yeah. I don't know. I can agree with you on that one. So, but yeah, great thoughts. Thanks for sharing and letting us know what y'all thought. We appreciate it. Matter of fact, we want to hear from the rest of you as well. You can always leave us your thoughts and opinions on any of our social media accounts. Facebook and Instagram are both at SW Reactions. Twitter is at SW Reactions Pod. And of course, you can always email us show at StarWarsReactions.com. And hit us up there. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you would grade it, whether you like it, dislike the episode, whether you agree with our reactions or not. Let us know what you think. And we'll definitely love to hear it. And you may hear us talk about it on the next episode. You never know. So, all right. Well, with that, David already told you his psychology corner is back, so I am going to turn the floor over to my main man, the David Motters, and let him take us into the world of psychology.
Absolutely, buddy. Yeah, no, the psychology corner is back. We have been on hiatus a little bit. I was thinking for any new listeners, Aaron, part of, just a little quick background, Aaron and I had talked about it over time, where I had generally kept my professional career separate from podcasting. I just love talking with Aaron, talking Star Wars, getting away from work. It's just a wonderful way to decompress, to cope, and just have fun. And I've clearly done that, with Aaron going to Galaxy's Edge and all the fun stuff we've done together with Star Wars. But ultimately, in talking with Aaron and just playing it out with him, we agreed that it would be a neat thing to share psychology within our podcast and to help people, in essence, become good psychologists. That's what my professors always talked about. Number one, provide a safe place for people to talk. Number two, support them. And then three, make them good psychologists. So that's really what we've done with the Psychology Corner, is to, in essence, give psychology away. And just for people, again, who haven't listened and might say, well, why is he talking about psychology? I was fortunate enough to get a master's and a PhD in clinical psychology, and have been working for 30 years as a psychologist. And so it's just been a lot of fun tying, Mandalorian or other Star Wars kinds of, shows and so on and so forth, and psychology. They just fit really well. And like I mentioned earlier, the loss of the Tuscan tribe really kind of got me thinking, particularly at this time of year, this November, December, it's now January time frame. And I thought, this would be a good time to cover depression and bereavement again, and really the differences between them, because sometimes those get blurred for people. But like I'd mentioned, this time of year, for my entire career, I've used a lot of January, February, March, kind of putting my clients back together after the holidays. Why do I say that? Because a lot of times I've talked to men and women, and of course adolescents and children, they end up spending time by family members who many times they don't want to be around, right? You're not around them all year long. All of a sudden, okay, it's November, December, we spend time with them. The other thing can be completely different, where people, I have a lot of persons just this month that I've been talking to morning till night, where they lost a loved one during the holidays. And, it's almost like, and I've said this to, I don't know, thousands of clients, I guess I'd rather, if we're going to lose a loved one, can it be like in the end of August or something, just kind of not during Thanksgiving, not during Christmas, not during Hanukkah, New Year's, all that kind of stuff. But it presents a pretty difficult thing when we do lose loved ones during those months compared to some other months. So I thought that, with, Boba discovering his Tuscan tribe, being wiped out, that it'd be a good time to talk about, depression and bereavement. I just thought it kind of brings it in. So I have discussed depression a number of times, and Aaron, I didn't go back through all of our show notes. We have a lot to see when I've talked about it or not, but I thought it bears repeating. I know from my clients that I work with, I have to go back over stuff so it's fresh again in their minds. So if any of our listeners have heard me cover depression before, hopefully this is just a refresher. It keeps it kind of at the forefront of your mind. And for those who haven't learned about this, it's something new. So let's jump into this. So let's go to a definition. Like what is depression? I mean, in popular culture, we'll hear it. Even in this episode, Boba Fett's like, why is the Rancor just laying there? And of course, Danny Trejo, one of Aaron's favorite guys, says he's depressed, right? So a Rancor can be depressed. And so what is depression for us humans compared to Rancors? What I did was I grabbed a measure that I use every day in my office. I did today on Friday. Administered this to a number of people, but it's called the PHQ-9. It's the Patient Health Questionnaire, and it's 9 questions on depression. It's one of the most widely used screeners of depression in our country. And so let me just read through the 9 items. These 9 items match up with the 9 items in the DSM. And in many previous episodes, Aaron knows this, I have talked to our listeners about the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It's what psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, licensed mental health counselors, and really insurance companies use to kind of have a common discussion about what are the different psychiatric, diagnoses that people can have. So again, here's the 9 items. Let me read them, And as listeners listen to this, they can think about, hey, is that something that applies to me? So the first question says, basically, you got to think about the last 14 days. We don't ask people about the last month per se, but about the last 14 days. And the question asks, how many days have you dealt with little interest or pleasure in doing things? Okay, that's the first one. Second question, over the last 14 days, how many days have you felt down, depressed, or hopeless? Now, you don't have to feel all three. Well, I feel down, depressed, hopeless, let me count a day. No. I have some clients say, yeah, I have a bunch of days where I felt down, not necessarily depressed. I have some people say, yeah, I felt hopeless. But that's a second item of 9 aspects of depression. A third question, how many days over the last 14 days have you had trouble falling or staying asleep or sleeping too much? One of the problems with depression is it hammers people's sleep in 2 ways. One, I have clients over the last 30 years who are depressed and they want to sleep all the time. I have other clients who are depressed and they just can't sleep, right? And that's miserable, all right? A fourth one, how many days over the last 14 days have you felt tired or had little energy, right? So depression really saps people's energy. Fifth question, how many days over the last 14 days have you had a poor appetite or overeating? Now notice there's a theme here now. With sleep and with eating, again, there's the extremes. Is the person sleeping too much? Or are they not sleeping at all? Here, Aaron, the question is the person eating too much or not eating enough? Again, I've had clients deal with both things. They're depressed and they say to me, I don't want to eat anything. I have other people say, I'm depressed. All I want to do is shove food in my mouth. And I get it. I understand that. A sixth question we ask, how many days over the last 14 days have you felt bad about yourself, right? This addresses that aspect of depression where people feel worthless, okay? Seventh one, it asks, how many days have you had trouble concentrating? Again, depression hammers people's ability to concentrate, okay? An eighth one, this really is a third question, Aaron, and I want to point this out to people again. Sleep, appetite, and then activity level. We see another 2 extremes. One, I have clients where they speak or move so slowly other people could have noticed. We call that psychomotor retardation, or the opposite, where people are so fidgety or restless that they move around a lot more than usual. We call that psychomotor agitation. Again, we see depression push people out to these extremes. A ninth question, in a kind of a ninth different aspect of depression for people to think about, is we ask about suicidal ideation. And the question asks, how many days have you had thoughts that you'd be better off dead or hurting yourself in some way? So there are 9 questions right there to assess depression. And the more days that people have them, the higher that rating is of depression on the PHQ-9. Okay, so let me flip over and talk to people about, now, what is bereavement, right? When we lose a loved one, like when we think about what Boba went through, that's more than losing a loved one to, cancer or a heart attack or something like this. This is a traumatic loss that he experienced. But let's just talk about normal bereavement and how it's different from depression. Okay, so let me just kind of give a couple differences so our listeners can hear this. Okay, so when we want to distinguish grief or bereavement from a major depressive episode, right, the 9 items I just described, it is useful to consider that in grief, the predominant affect is feelings of emptiness and loss, while in major depression, it is a persistent depressed mood and the inability to anticipate happiness or pleasure. Okay, that's something to think about. Also, the dysphoria in grief, right, or bereavement, is likely to decrease in intensity over days to weeks, and it occurs in waves, the so-called pangs of grief. Okay, and these waves tend to be associated with thoughts or reminders of the deceased. Now, keep in mind the depressed mood in a major depressive episode, again, those 9 items, is more persistent and not tied to specific thoughts or preoccupations. The pain of grief may be accompanied by positive emotions and humor that are uncharacteristic of the pervasive unhappiness and misery that's characteristic in a major depressive episode. Okay. So when we think about grief or bereavement, those kind of thoughts feature a preoccupation with thoughts and memories of the deceased person, rather than that self-critical or pessimistic aspect of a major depressive episode. That's why there's that item in there that asks about feelings of worthlessness. Okay. Here you go. In grief, self-esteem is generally preserved, whereas in major depression, there are those feelings of worthlessness and self-loathing. All right. One last little thing to kind of differentiate grief and depression is it says here, if a bereaved individual thinks about death and dying, now we just talked about suicidal ideation, but there's a difference here. If a bereaved individual thinks about death and dying, such thoughts are generally focused on the deceased and possibly about joining the deceased, right? They want to be with them. Whereas in a major depressive episode, those thoughts are focused on ending one's life because of feelings of worthlessness, feeling undeserving of life, or feeling like they cannot cope with the pain of depression. That's very different. So I wanted to explain that out just for people to hear that there is normal bereavement and there is depression. Again, I wouldn't wish depression on my worst enemy. It is a very, very difficult thing to deal with. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, again, at this time of year, is just to say that if you when I was going through those items, those 9 items, and if you identify with any of those items on the PHQ-9, or if you're feeling depressed, I would highly recommend seeking out counseling. Find a good therapist. And I would say this, and I've always said it to persons who've come in to see me, don't judge whether you want to continue to work with me after one session. Give it 2 or 3 sessions. And then if I'm not your cup of tea, find someone else. And I would say that with any male or female therapist, give him or her 2 or 3 sessions and see if you mesh. Because after that second or third session, you can really see if you like the personality of the therapist. You can tell that they care about you. And you also know, and this is critical, that they can teach you techniques to decrease your depression and anxiety. That is critical. So there is the Psychology Corner. It's back. And hopefully we have helped our listeners, Aaron, become better psychologists.
Excellent. I'm sure that you have, because you've helped me become one myself.
All right.
Awesome. Love it. And if somebody had questions about your Psychology Corner, David, or if they wanted to question you about Star Wars in particular, how would they go about doing that?
Absolutely, brother. For me, it's never changed. Twitter hasn't. It is at David_Modders, Modders. The reason why I spell it out is because there is an S on the end, and sometimes when people hear my name, they think it's Modder instead of Modders. So there is an S on the end. Instagram, just simply look up my name, David Modders. And then there's email, like Aaron and I have talked about our email. That's if someone wants to write something longer, more than happy to read it. That is David@StarWarsReactions.com.
Very good. And of course, if you want to talk Star Wars with me, you can do that. The best place is on Twitter at TAHarris121079. Or, of course, you can email me, Aaron, at StarWarsReactions.com. Well, David, it's that time.
Oh, no.
It's time for the Star Wars dad joke of the week. I need to get somebody to write up a little jingle for this, because that would make it so much even better. But yeah, so continuing in our dad joke of the week tradition for the Book of Boba Fett, we have a Boba-centric joke for you this week. Let's go. David, why couldn't Jango wear Boba's helmet?
Oh, boy. All right. I don't know. Why couldn't Jango wear Boba's helmet?
Because it didn't fit.
Oh, my God. That is horrible.
No, horrible would have been if the answer would have been because he was a head short.
Gosh. Oh,
because it didn't fit.
oh.
It didn't fit. Yes. Wah, 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 wah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. It didn't fit. Well,
Wow.
it looks like we are out of time, my brother. It has been great, David, talking with you again. Looking forward to episode 71, where we'll be talking about chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett next week. It's going to be great. David, it's been a blast, my friend.
Absolutely. Love talking to you. Hope the listeners enjoyed it, had fun with Star Wars, learned a little bit from psychology, and had a good laugh with a Star Wars dad joke of the week.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate you. We're thankful for you. Grateful for you. Praying for you all. Stay healthy. Stay safe throughout these times. I know it's rough, but we can all make it. Y'all can do it, and we're rooting for you, and we know you can do it. So thank you for listening. This is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.